concept principle level thing rather than a technical thing. Motion is motion, period, right? When you look at a kata, a form, whatever, the motion being done, like, for instance, my first juru for my silat, here, 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 right? That motion is just motion. Each aspect of it, this, can be a strike, a lock, a choke, a disarm, a throw, whatever, right? It's just motion. Now, when I put it in context on another person, now what it can be gets limited a bit based on the context and his body type, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But it's still a huge amount of things that it can be. And it's still just this motion, right? So from that place comes the extension that my motion never has to change based on anything he does or on my tool, okay? So, same attack, and I've got empty hands, right? I can do the exact same thing that we did a second ago, right? The damage I'm doing changes, and my range might be affected, although between this and the karambit, there's not much of a range change. But, toss me a stick. So now, exact same thing. I'm using the punyo here. Sweep under, bang. Now my range for this changes. I'm going to get really deep, right? But my motion hasn't changed. Bang, right? I did the exact same motion. Doesn't matter what weapon I'm using or my empty hands, right? In the same method, my motion, one, I might take this, I might take this. It's still the same motion, right? Doesn't matter. Bang, here, scoop. Now this, I can just run or I can sweep. My motion is exactly the same, right? The only thing that changes is my range, right? So here, I'm at a slightly lower range. This is just an exit. Slightly closer, I'm sweeping, right? So my motion never has to change, right? And this is why boxing, right? You got 5 strikes. You don't need a whole slew of things. You need a handful of things that you can make work in any situation, right? So, you know, if your background is boxing, box, right? It doesn't matter. Ultimately, no matter what the tool is, whether it's a blade, a stick, a flexible weapon, shirt, schmog that we talked about, sarong, whatever. I'm not training to use that weapon. I'm training to work in conjunction with its nature, right? Blade's nature is to cut or potentially thrust, depending on how it's used and type of blade. But that's his nature, right? It doesn't require me to do that. It does require momentum. Right? But if I do this, it's going to cut. It doesn't need me to do anything special, right? So, now obviously if I drop it to the floor, it can't attack without initiative, but once I provide the initiative, it doesn't need me anymore. As long as it's moving, it's a danger, right? Flexible weapons, shirts, sarongs, whatever, their nature is to tie and bind, right? If I try to force them to do something, they will probably tie and bind me, right? So there are a lot of ways I might employ this, but we'll go with this one for now. So now I do the exact same thing, right? One, I end up with that. I don't have to try. The disarm happens, right? I did the exact same motion, right? I changed it just a little bit. I went 1, 2, and I could have done the exact same thing. I changed just a little bit to take advantage of what was there, right? And that's where flow comes in, right? I want flow. I want to be able to take what's in the moment and capitalize on it, right? Every motion that he makes, every motion I make, and ultimately I don't really care what he does. So every motion I make sets up options and ideally takes them away from him, right? So ideally I want to be in the present and keep moving and working from option to option to option to option, right?
Will that fall into your timing?
Yes, or I create the timing, right? So again, I might do this. Now I don't get that tangled, but I do the exact same thing. Step out and, right? I can wrap this here, and I'm doing the same basic motion. This is my cut. Now my follow-up becomes a little different, right? but my motion is the same, right? So you don't ever have, the only reason to change your motion is because it's not working, right? You run into a wall, right? So I go here, and maybe he manages to get that hand dropped and cover this. Okay, I've hit a wall. Now I might change, I might do the exact same thing, right? Just give that up, or I might change to something else, right? But ultimately, my motion stays the same. We train more than one thing, because one thing can't really, it can answer anything, but it may not be the best option for answering everything, right? So, for instance, like, if all I have is boxing, and he comes in with this, and I go jab cross, I might knock him out, but I might have a blade in my gut, right? So boxing can answer it. This is maybe not the ideal answer, right? But my motion doesn't have to change ever, right? So, as instructors, we train a bunch of stuff. So, because something I do may not work for his body type, right? Something he does may not work for mine. Right? So, as instructors, we have to have a lot more material than if we were just fighters. If I'm just a fighter, I only need like that much material, and then I need to rep the tar out of it so I can just tap, right? If I'm a teacher, now I need a lot more. Right? By the same token, if it's a lifetime endeavor for me, right? Fighters, 5, 10 years at max, and by 10 years they're changing stuff. They're not fighting at 30 the way they were at 20, right? I guarantee it. But if it's a lifelong endeavor, then you also have to keep more material, because what works for me at 20 might not work for me at 30, probably won't work for me at 50, right? So it's just, it's constant process of evolution. So that's where the extra material comes in. When it comes to fighting, I only need, and if you look at, most of the focus today has been technical, and it's been like, you get the job done and go home. And if you look, I really have only done about 3, maybe 4 things, right? I've hit the same targets, I've moved in the same basic way, just depending on where the attack was coming from. Again, very small, we're talking about fighting in this case, so very small set of the tools, worked a lot of different ways, a lot of variety, right? So all of this is, like I said, it's still karambit related, but it's much, much bigger too, right? Right? Now, the way I was trained blade, we focused on angle 1, 2, and 5, because angle 1 is effectively the same as angle 4 or 3, whatever your angling numbers, right? So if he comes across there, that's the same as angle 1. I can do the same thing. I have less time because there's less travel, unless he's winding up way back here. But I have less time, so I need to really understand it and be more efficient. But it's the same thing, right? So we focus on 1, 2, and 5, which gives us a good understanding of all the likelihoods. He might come low, he might come like with the low backhand or low forehand, I don't care. That's the same as angle 2. I might have to change my structure, my level to deal with it, but I can deal with it the exact same way, right? So 1, 2, and 5 gives us a good overall understanding of everything, and then it's just a matter of working out the details, like, oh, that's coming really quick, so I need to really be on my motion and get my lines tight and right, right? So we'll go back to 1. So now I'm going to cut down, right? And maybe it's because of where my blade is. If my blade's low, I'm going to cut up. If my blade's high, I'm going to more likely to cut down, right? So 1, 2. Now I'm turning this way. Yeah. So 1, 2, and I'll throw it. I don't care, right? So, but I'm spinning into the femoral artery or the groin. I really don't care what I hit, right? So 1, 2, 3. Okay. If he has a right lead, 1, I can still get it. Doesn't matter. Right? I'm going for the left femoral. Okay? So, and again, you'll notice this is exactly the same thing as here. Right? So down, 2, out. Right? I want my left hand turn this way again. My left hand, I want to be in this sector, covering this whole thing. It might be hitting him in the face, might be doing other things, but it's mostly covering this sector so that if that gets fired, it picks it up. Right? You might have another blade, whatever, but it's going to pass through, it's going to get whatever's in that sector on my way out. And it can also be bang. Right? A strike is fine too.